Part 1. The SOs that changed the galaxy. On a small, damaged alien station orbiting a dim red dwarf star, the young Sorey officer Yalen pressed buttons with shaking fingers. The station was barely holding together. Smoke rose from broken ventilation tubes, and emergency lights cast red streaks across the walls. Outside, the battle with the Corel Dominion raged, but Yalen could not see it clearly through the cracked observation window. "We cannot hold much longer," Yalen whispered to no one. The intercom was broken, and the senior officers were dead or missing. The computers beeped with urgent warnings. The last hope was a signal, an SOS call, one that would reach allies. Maybe, just maybe, help would come. Yalen knew the beacon settings were old, ancient even. The database warned about a restricted frequency. It was called Deathworld Contact Only. The old texts described it as dangerous. Any species that could detect it would be fast, strong, and capable of killing whole fleets. Yalen hesitated. Was it right to use it? There was no time to debate. The station shook from distant explosions. Hands trembling, Yalen pushed the sequence. A wave of energy pulsed from the station, fading into the void. The message was simple but desperate. "We beg for aid. Our worlds burn. Total destruction approaches. Coordinates enclosed." Far away, near the edge of human space, at Outpost Archer, the emergency relay station hummed quietly. Deep in the control room, Captain Jason Clark sipped cold coffee and scrolled through routine logs. He yawned, bored, wishing he had a better assignment. Suddenly, a strange signal blinked on his console. Jason frowned. It was marked as Priority Omega. Deathworld distress, hostile environment, total evacuation recommended. Jason blinked. Deathworld distress? Humans came from Deathworlds, harsh planets, dangerous environments. If a call like this came through, it meant something big. Very big. He sat up straight and began analyzing the signal. The language was alien, garbled, and the computers could only translate a few words. Help, enemy, cannot stop, do not delay. Jason knew he had to report it immediately. He activated the secure relay to Earth orbit. A few hours later, the Human Defense Council gathered in the glowing command center. Around a large table sat Admiral Laura King, calm and steady, with tired eyes from years of facing crises. Beside her were General Eric Harris from Planetary Defense and Dr. Natalie Ross, a xenology expert. "We received a distress call from beyond our sector," Jason said, explaining the situation. The council listened in silence. Laura studied the fragmented translation. "We do not know the size of the threat," she said quietly. "But the distress code is extreme. It says they face total destruction." General Harris frowned. "It could be a local war, maybe a small rebellion. We do not need to send the fleet for a small conflict." Dr. Ross shook her head. "The signal is corrupted, but it mentions civilians, cities burning, entire fleets destroyed. For humans, this is beyond normal war. And the priority code matches ancient warnings about Deathworld contact." Laura leaned back. She remembered times when they arrived late. Entire species wiped out while humans hesitated. She did not want that to happen again. "We cannot wait. A Deathworld distress call is never ignored. We must respond." After a long discussion, the council voted. Human law and tradition were clear. Ignore a Deathworld call at your own risk. Laura gave the order. The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet would mobilize immediately. In the human fleet, preparations began. Shipyards glowed with activity as crews rushed to ready vessels. Old reserve ships were recommissioned, hulls polished, and weapons checked. Aboard the flagship Horizon Dawn, Captain Jason Clark was recalled from outpost duty to report the details. "Signal appears genuine, but we cannot see exact threat levels," Jason said to Laura and her officers. Commander Ryan Lewis, tactical officer, nodded. Ryan was sharp and blunt, the kind of leader who expected quick decisions. Beside him, Commander Sophia Hall oversaw logistics and support. She was calm, organized, and steady under pressure. Lieutenant Alex Rivers, a young sensor officer, nervously adjusted displays as he monitored incoming data. "Prepare for maximum force," Laura said simply. "We answer every SOs fully. Any unknown threat in this sector will be treated as potentially lethal." The officers exchanged looks. The mission was dangerous, but humans had never turned away from a call for help. Jason stared at the star field on the observation deck, thinking of the alien worlds waiting for them. Alex wrote a brief message to his sister, knowing he might not return. The fleet engines roared to life and the ships jumped into faster than light, folding space around them in a brilliant shimmer. Meanwhile, Yalen, on the Sori station, could only hope. The SOs had left the station, traveling through dangerous space, but Yalen did not know who would answer. The Corel Dominion pressed closer, fire streaking across the skies. Explosions shook the station again. Yalen prayed that whatever received the signal would come quickly and that they would survive the wait. As the human fleet moved through space, the crew of Horizon Dawn prepared for anything. Every officer reviewed battle protocols, every sensor watched for threats. The signal had triggered a response far greater than anyone imagined. Humans did not come lightly, and for the Sori, the first sign of that response was still hours away. But for humans, the decision was simple. When a Deathworlder cries for help, humans answer with full force. And so, one desperate call, one mistake on an alien console, began a chain of events that would shake entire star systems. The human fleet raced through the void, unaware that what they thought was a small distress call would soon become a war the galaxy would never forget. By the time Horizon Dawn left the final jump gate, all officers understood one truth. This mission would test everything they were. But humans, shaped by their harsh homeworlds, did not turn back from danger. They only moved forward, faster, stronger, and ready for whatever waited on the other side of the South. Part 2. Deathworlders on the move, the human fleet moved through the darkness of space, folding through jump gates with precision. Aboard the flagship Horizon Dawn, lights glowed softly along the walls, casting long shadows over the officers preparing for what lay ahead. Commander Ryan Lewis moved from station to station, checking weapons systems and ship readiness. He was blunt and fast, giving orders with clarity that left no room for doubt. Commander Sophia Hall coordinated logistics, checking crew lists, food stores, medical supplies, and armor suits. Every detail mattered. Lieutenant Alex Rivers studied sensor readings, noting strange energy spikes in nearby sectors and unfamiliar ship signatures. The young officer tried to remain calm, though a knot of fear tightened in his stomach. "We cannot underestimate this," Ryan said. "We do not know who we will meet or what forces we will face. Our priority is survival and protecting anyone under threat." Sophia nodded. "We also provide aid where needed, food, shelter, medical treatment. We save lives wherever we can." Meanwhile, on Earth and human colonies, shipyards worked day and night. Older vessels were polished and upgraded, crews trained in zero-gravity combat drills, and soldiers familiarized themselves with heavy suits and advanced weaponry. Civilians watched with awe and worry as the fleet prepared to leave. Families hugged, whispered goodbyes, and waited for news that might not come back soon. Alex practiced on simulators, struggling to keep up. He misread sensor feeds and almost triggered false alarms. Sophia noticed and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Fear is natural. Use it to stay sharp. Mistakes cost less here than in battle." As the fleet approached the Sori sector, communications officers worked to decode the SO signal more clearly. Dr. Natalie Ross led a small team of linguists and xenologists studying fragments of alien language. The message was chaotic, corrupted by damage, but certain words were repeated. Civilians, enemy, burn, cannot stop, help. No mention of the actual size of the threat was clear. "They are in trouble," Dr. Ross said, pointing at the holographic map. "We cannot tell if this is a planetary invasion or a small skirmish, but the words suggest disaster. Humans cannot ignore a plea like this." Laura King, standing at the observation deck, watched her fleet glide through star lanes. She remembered past mistakes, times when help arrived too late. She did not want that to happen again. "We will not wait," she said quietly. "We move with speed. We act with force." The fleet followed a carefully planned path. Ryan Lewis oversaw 3 stages of approach. First, clearing any long-range threats from the jump paths. Second, protecting civilian populations and evacuating if needed. Third, striking the enemy command centers decisively. Sophia coordinated supplies for each stage. Shuttles and landing pods were stocked, medical supplies loaded, and engineers prepared for orbital construction or repair of damaged structures. On Horizon Dawn, officers held briefings daily. Jason Clark, responsible for relaying intel, summarized known data. The signal had come from the Scifi sector, a small alien civilization fighting the powerful Kuril Dominion. The humans did not know the size of the Kuril fleet or the number of worlds under attack. All they had was the SOs and the ancient warning about Deathworlders. "We treat this as maximum threat," Laura reminded them. "Our first duty is to save lives and prevent further destruction." While the humans prepared, the Sori aliens moved to defend what they could. Director Celian Vor, a thin-limbed, gentle alien leader, coordinated defense plans with remaining fleet units. Cities had burned, underground shelters held terrified civilians, and the Kuril Dominion pressed closer with heavy warships. Celian's advisors debated whether the SOs would bring help or invite a worse enemy. Some argued that the signal might reach something powerful, something dangerous. Celian, wise but cautious, feared the worst but hoped for allies. Yalen, the officer who sent the SOs, still waited nervously on the damaged station. The beacon had been sent, but hours had passed. Distant explosions shook the walls. Yalen feared that no one would answer in time, that the Kuril might destroy everything before help arrived. Yet hope lingered in their heart. Somewhere, someone might be coming. In the fleet, the human crew prepared for battle. Tactical simulations played out on holographic displays. Ryan Lewis moved markers to show possible enemy approaches. Alex monitored energy signatures, pointing out anomalies that could indicate traps. Sophia arranged evacuation craft and medical teams in orbit, ready to respond to any disaster. One night, aboard Horizon Dawn, Jason Clark and Laura King stood together at the observation deck. Stars streaked past the viewport as the fleet moved through hyperspace. Jason admitted his worry. "We are going into unknown space. We may not return." Laura looked at him steadily. "Humans do not ignore calls for help. This is what we do. We are fast, we are strong, and we care. If we do not act, countless lives will be lost. We will act. That is all we need to know." Alex, sitting nearby, wrote a brief note to his sister, telling her he might not return. He struggled to stay calm. Sophia reminded him that fear was natural, but could be controlled. The fleet jumped again, folding space into itself, rushing toward the Scifi sector. Days passed in hyperspace, and the fleet remained alert. Every officer, every crew member knew that once they arrived, there would be no easy path. Enemy forces, planetary defenses, and unexpected hazards could appear at any moment. Yet humans were prepared. Their world had taught them to survive in the worst conditions. Their ships were strong, their crews ready, and their minds sharp. The fleet's journey was long, but discipline and careful planning kept them together. Laura held meetings with officers daily, reviewing every possible scenario. Sophia ensured supplies and logistics stayed in order. Alex became more confident as he read sensor data and tracked patterns in nearby systems. Ryan drilled officers in tactical maneuvers, making sure no mistake would cost lives. Finally, the fleet approached the outer borders of the Soray sector. Communication logs showed signs of destruction, smoke rising from cities, ships destroyed, and signals of panic from surviving colonies. The SOs had not exaggerated. Something serious was happening, and humans were the first to respond. Yalen, still on the station, could see the faint flashes of hyperspace jumps in the distance. They could not yet understand who or what was approaching, but hope returned. Maybe, just maybe, help was coming. Laura gave the final order for the fleet to prepare for real combat. Shields were activated, weapons systems went online, and ships moved into formation. The first sight of the Carol fleet would come soon, and humans were ready. Every soldier, pilot, and officer understood the stakes. The SOs had been sent. The Deathworlders were moving. The galaxy would soon witness their speed, strength, and determination. And so the fleet closed in, ready to face the unknown. One small signal had awakened a force far greater than the Soray could imagine. The humans were on their way, and nothing would stop them from answering the call. Part 3. The Soray and the mistake the Soray Union was in chaos. Cities burned on several planets, and underground shelters were crowded with frightened civilians. The Carel Dominion moved like a storm, crushing defenses and leaving nothing but rubble behind. Director Celian Vor, thin-limbed and wise, paced in the war room of the largest remaining Soray station. Holomaps glowed before him, showing red blips of attacking Carol's ships and damaged cities. The council sat around him, arguing in quiet, tense voices. The distress beacon was sent, Celian said, his voice steady but tired. We only requested aid. We did not know who might answer. Some council members looked worried. We may have called something worse than the Carol, one said. History says Deathworlders are strong. They destroy enemies without mercy. Yalen, the officer who had sent the SOs, stood in the corner, hands clasped. The young alien had been reprimanded for using the forbidden frequency. The superiors had accused them of sending the beacon improperly. I only wanted to help my people survive, Yalen said softly. The station computers recommended this frequency. It has the highest chance of being noticed. Celian nodded, understanding the mistake but seeing no other option. We had no choice. We had to try something. We are lucky the humans may respond, even if it is dangerous. Far away, the human fleet continued its approach. Aboard Horizon Dawn, Laura King reviewed reports from scouts and sensors. The SOs from the Soray sector had been partially decoded, but much remained unclear. Humans prepared for worst-case scenarios, knowing nothing about the strength or tactics of the Carol Dominion. They only knew that any planet under threat must be protected. Ryan Lewis mapped possible attack paths and enemy positions. He calculated distances, shield strengths, and escape routes. Sophia Hall prepared medical teams and evacuation craft for every planet they might reach. Alex Rivers monitored energy spikes, noting unusual warship signatures that could indicate traps or ambushes. The young officer was nervous, but each new reading made him more confident. He was learning quickly under pressure. On a smaller Soray planet, civilians huddled in underground shelters. Their homes were gone, and their families were scattered. Yalen coordinated small defense teams, trying to slow the Carol advance until help arrived. Every battle was a desperate attempt to buy time. Missiles streaked across the sky. Lasers cut through air like knives, and explosions shook the ground. The Soray fought bravely, but were outmatched. Their ships were smaller, less armored, and less armed than the Carol vessels. Celian watched the sensors and holomaps, realizing that the humans, if they arrived, could change the outcome of this war. He thought about the old records describing humans as Deathworlders. They were strong, relentless, and feared by many. If they came, the Carol would be in trouble. But Celian did not know how quickly they would reach the Sori sector. Yalen worried constantly. The SOs had been sent hours ago, but there was still no sign of help. Each day brought more explosions, more panic, more fear. Yet hope lingered. Somewhere out there, someone had received their call. Meanwhile, aboard Horizon Dawn, Laura King held meetings with Ryan, Sophia, and Alex. Reports showed destruction in the Sori sector, but nothing indicated the full scale of the Carol force. Laura reminded everyone, "We go to save lives first and foremost. We do not know what we will face. Prepare for all scenarios." The officers ran drills, reviewing possible combat situations. They practiced boarding enemy ships, landing on damaged planets, and providing aid to civilians under fire. Alex adjusted his readings, learning to spot energy patterns in enemy ships and predict movements. Sophia organized medics and engineers, ensuring that any survivors could be treated quickly and effectively. In deep space, humans prepared decoys, electronic countermeasures, and long-range attacks. They simulated attacks on large enemy fleets and mapped escape routes for civilian ships. Ryan emphasized efficiency, speed, and coordination. Every crew member knew that mistakes could be fatal, yet confidence grew among them. Humans had survived harsh planets, deadly storms, and relentless enemies. They were built to endure. Yalen continued monitoring the station, watching distant flashes in space. The young officer did not know who would come, but they prayed that help would arrive before the Carel destroyed everything. The belief that someone was out there gave Yalen courage, even when fear threatened to overwhelm. Back on Horizon Dawn, Laura and Jason discussed the coming approach to the Sori sector. Jason expressed concern about the unknown. The Carel fleets were unpredictable, and the humans had limited intelligence. Laura replied simply, "We do not wait for perfect information. We act. That is how we save lives." As the fleet jumped closer to the Sori sector, the first signs of destruction became visible. Smoke rose from planetary cities, and faint sensor traces indicated collapsed defense networks. Alex pointed out patterns in the destruction, warning of enemy ambushes. Ryan devised counter-strategies, readying strike teams and shield formations. Sophia ensured that medical teams were ready for immediate deployment. On the Sori station, Celian and Yalen watched energy distortions in space. Something was approaching, but the details were unclear. Hope and fear mixed as they tried to guess who would arrive and what they would do. Celian whispered, "May they be what we need. May they arrive in time." Yalen stood silently, reflecting on the decision to send the SOs. The beacon had been a mistake in protocol, a risk, but now it might be the only chance for survival. If the humans answered, it could change everything. If they did not, the Carol Dominion would destroy the remaining Sori worlds. Aboard Horizon Dawn, the human fleet prepared for engagement. Every ship activated shields, weapons went online, and tactical teams reviewed maps. The first contact would be critical. Laura reminded everyone that humans acted to protect, not to destroy unnecessarily. Yet they were ready for anything. The SOs had been answered, and the humans would arrive with full force. As the fleet drew near, Yalen and Celian watched nervously. Faint lights appeared in distant space, growing brighter. The humans were coming. Hope surged among the Sori, but fear remained. The humans were strong, the Carol were deadly, and the future was uncertain. The first sight of the fleet would mark the start of a turning point. The SOS, a desperate cry for help, had awakened a power far greater than the Sori had imagined. Now, the fate of their civilization and the course of the war against the Carol Dominion rested in the hands of humans who moved fast, struck hard, and cared for life even in the most dangerous conditions. The fleet continued to approach, sensors alert, weapons ready, every crew member prepared for what would come. Yalen hoped that the humans would arrive in time, and that their mistake, sending the SOs on a forbidden frequency, would lead not to disaster, but to salvation. The galaxy was about to witness the power of Deathworlders, and the Sori were about to learn that one small mistake could change everything.